Collegiate sensation Bo Nickal is the latest in a long line of elite athletes with a decorated history in traditional American wrestling who successfully transitioned to MMA. The Penn State standout was introduced to UFC fans via the Contender Series, but it's his impressive debut at UFC 285 that confirmed his status as a bright prospect in the middleweight division. We sat down with Bo and found out who made his list of American wrestlers who found success at MMA's highest level in the UFC.
And here is Bo Nickal.
One of the most highly touted prospects to hit the sport in years.
As decorated a collegiate wrestler as we've ever seen.
Wrestling fundamentals are an incredibly important tool to have when going into MMA, because if your wrestling fundamentals are better than your opponents, you decide where the fight happens.
He's not just taking people down and lying on them. He's not just cracking them with the right hand. He is taking people out of there, and he's doing it in style.
I think that we see so many great American wrestlers transition to MMA because of how strong American wrestling is. There's such a strong tradition of Americans competing well in the World Championships and the Olympics. And then in addition to that, kids are brought up with youth wrestling, high school, collegiate. It really prepares you for that next level of competition in what the UFC is, and being able to have all those competition reps from a young age, I really feel there's no way to discredit the value in that. I'm Bo Nickal, and these are my top 5 greatest American wrestlers in UFC history. Coming in at number 5, Daniel Cormier.
Two-time United States Olympic wrestler, UFC light heavyweight champion of the world, truly an elite athlete here, Daniel Cormier.
Daniel Cormier's fighting style was different and unique because he really mixed up the boxing and the wrestling really well.
It's the hands and the striking of Daniel Cormier that separates him from a lot of other wrestlers.
Oh, my goodness, wow. Indeed. Look at that.
When I think of DC's wrestling, I automatically think of his fight with Alexander Gustafsson and him just picking him up above his head and totally flipping him, slamming him.
That's Daniel Cormier, ladies and gentlemen.
He was pretty famous for those, but the one versus Gustafsson really stands out to me.
That's some high-level wrestling.
Every time I saw a DC fight, I expected to see a dog.
The technique, the athleticism, the conditioning, the power, everything. He's a beast.
He had great cardio. He was able to go 5 rounds.
They're gonna go the distance!
And at the same time, he had a lot of power and was able to finish fights.
Oh! Cormier knocks me down!
Definitely a fierce competitor. Coming in at number 4, Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar, an All-American, a 2-time Big Ten champion, a national champion.
I think Brock was considered such a great wrestler in MMA because his power and his ability to just absolutely pummel guys.
Brock Lesnar is the undisputed heavyweight champion!
To see that guy coming at you, not only trying to land punches, but trying to take you down and beat you up on the ground had to have been pretty terrifying.
Wow! Brock Lesnar has done it!
Having that combination of size, strength, athleticism, and knowing how to wrestle, definitely dangerous.
2 great wrestlers, and there is a ton of respect.
Him winning the UFC title against Randy Couture, just put on an absolutely awesome performance against a fellow wrestler, unfortunately, but there can only be one. So, when I think of his career, I really think that moment of him becoming UFC champion was just so huge.
Brock Lesnar!
And my number 3 pick is Mark Schultz. Had to go a little old school with this one. Mark Schultz's wrestling accolades really speak for themselves. 3-time NCAA champion, 2-time world champion, Olympic gold medalist. It really doesn't get better than that. When you look at the way he competes, not only in wrestling but in MMA as well, there's just so much ferocity. Obviously, he was a very physical specimen, but I think more than that, his mentality was second to none. I heard a Mark Schultz quote once, "There's no man on earth that can hurt me."
Look at Schultz!
I love that mentality. He absolutely emulated that quote in his fights. Coming in at number 2, Sarah McMahon. I chose Sarah McMahon to be on my list because earning a silver medal in the Olympics is such an amazing accomplishment, and I feel like she was one of the first female wrestlers to kind of bring that in.
How good was that?
Every single time she competed, she had a positive attitude and she gave her 100% best.
McMahon working hard for this takedown. She gets it.
That's all you can really ask of yourself, and so that's something I really appreciate. My favorite Sarah McMahon moment had to be her UFC debut.
Oh, man.
You know, winning in a knockout, such an awesome accomplishment, and just a really cool thing to see somebody come from the same background as me, you know, wrestling, and reach the highest level of the sport in the UFC and being able to make her debut with a knockout. Very cool moment. And coming in at my number 1, it's Henry Cejudo.
The youngest American ever to earn a gold medal in the Olympics in freestyle wrestling.
Henry Cejudo, former national champion, Pan Am wrestling champion. I mean, he's a spectacular wrestler.
There's a lot of reasons for Henry to make my list. The youngest ever American to win an Olympic gold medal in wrestling, such a cool thing. And so being able to accomplish that, I feel like earns him the number 1 spot.
Cejudo looking for the takedown.
And
wow.
there it is.
He's just incredibly talented, athletic, and one of the highest fight IQs, I believe, out of anybody.
Crew's in a world of trouble here.
I look at what he's been able to do in fighting, and I really admire it with the amount of guys that he's beaten and the names. You know, it's pretty crazy. And not only to beat the guys he's beaten, but to do it across 2 divisions.
That is really impressive stuff.
I have a few moments that I think of that really showcased his wrestling. His second fight with Demetrius Johnson, being able to take, at the time, the pound-for-pound number 1 guy, take him down and win a really close decision. Such an awesome thing, and definitely huge for the sport of wrestling. Other moments, I think of his fight with Marlon Moraes. He didn't necessarily showcase his wrestling through takedowns, but I think he showcased his heart, his grit, his toughness, losing a first round and kind of getting pieced up a little bit, and then just turning it on, putting the pressure on the guy, and being able to turn that fight around, get the finish, and become the 135-pound champ as well.
That's it.
Get him a second belt. Henry Cejudo is the UFC bantamweight champion.
2-division UFC champ, Olympic gold medalist. That's a Triple C. I'm Bo Nickal. Thanks for taking 5.